Hello, everyone. I'm Branden Bodendorfer, and you are on Focus. And over the last few weeks, we've been meeting with business leaders, organizations throughout our community, and different individuals that are trying to make an impact on our community in a greater area as we try to move forward through this pandemic. Today, we have a unique opportunity to talk with a commercial lender in our community to learn a little bit about how the programs that are being offered are helping the businesses in need and helping us drive ourselves and hopefully what will be a bright future for many of us. Today, I have with me Jeff Brickwalk of First State Bank to kind of break down some of the programs, talk a little bit about if you are someone that's in need or still interested in getting involved, how you might do so. So Jeff, thank you for joining me a little bit. I guess I'll start by saying, I hope by all gosh, I get your last name right. I struggle with it many times, but I'm going to say it is Whitrock, correct?
That is correct. Yes. I've been called worse, Branden. It's fine. It was good. It's close.
Okay, good. And I'm going to maybe slaughter this too, but your title, from what I understand, is you are the Senior Vice P, Chief Marketing Development and Sales.
There you go. Yep, right on. Yep.
That comes with a lot of responsibility, doesn't it?
Well, it's not as bad when you have a great team working with you, so it's all right. So.
Well, you're no stranger to Marshfield. You've been here for quite some time, and First State Bank is, is new to our area, but Pioneer Bank has been here for a really long time. But joining First State Bank and now having over 13 locations in Central Wisconsin, you guys have 8 commercial lenders that you guys have on your team right now. Let's start back a few weeks ago when you guys as a team first learned about some of these opportunities that the SBA was going to be launching through some of the federal stimulus that was coming out. Did you guys as a team rally behind that and say, hey, what can we do as an institution? What was your guys' role before these programs first kind of came to surface?
Well, I think that the critical piece of that was trying to move this forward, understanding the needs that our customers have and many of our small businesses out there. That truly is the purpose of this piece. We're very passionate about trying to help our small business customers as much as possible. So the challenge that you have with SBA and the government programs out there is they put all the programs together, but they don't always have all the information and details up front for you. It's kind of a moving target as you go. So we really kind of sat down as a team, as I'm sure many of the financial institutions in town did, to try to make sense of what they were able to share with us. How do we communicate that with our customers where it makes sense for them, take the bank jargon out of it, and where it makes sense for each individual business and what they're doing. So basically, I think the program is great. I think it's very effective. It covers a vast majority. From when it first started, the first round to the second round, they actually made improvements to pick up a few more pieces in that second round that were kind of lagging behind in reference to some of the sole proprietor, the independent contractor, some of those pieces. So I think it's really been great for us. But I think the best place to start, where it would make the most sense for us, Branden, is to look at how they roll them out. Basically, there's 3 programs that the SBA put out there. And 2 of the programs, our customers have to work directly with the SBA online at their website at sba.gov. That is they have the debt relief program, which is if you currently have an SBA loan, then they have relief options out there for you in which you can defer some of your payments, full payments, interest only, whatever may work for you on behalf of the SBA. But you only qualify for that program if you indeed already have an SBA loan. And for those of you who don't know if you do or not, chances are you do not. You would know if you had one.
Absolutely.
The second program that's out there is, we kind of nickname it the EIDL. They call it the Emergency Economic Injury Grant. And this piece is really designed to get instant, quick cash into the hands of our customers almost immediately, where they could jump online. Again, it's not through the bank. They have to go online through the SBA website. They would apply. They'd give them instant response with a $10,000 amount of money. They'd get it deposited into their account. But that particular deal, they would be expected to pay that back as a loan. The spread that they have could be anywhere from 3 years to 10 years. And this is where the interest rate would be somewhere in that 3.75 to 4% is what we understand. But
Now that advance, Jeff, that you mentioned is 10,000. That's actually up to 10,000, but it's only $1,000 per employee or FTE that you had prior to the start of the relief. Is that correct? Or did they change that with the last update?
I don't know that particular piece for sure, Brendan. And the reason why we don't is the banks are not included in that EIDL program. So it's specific to the customer working with SBA themselves. So that I don't know, and I haven't had a lot of customers that have taken advantage of that piece to where we've had that communication on how and how much. I know the minimum amount was 10,000, and they would receive a response back in an email format, and then other questions could come up that would share where they would come back and say, hey, based on other information you shared, here's some more that you might qualify for, but it's through an application and through that process that they normally would do. So in many of those cases, you could probably do the same thing with your own lender of your own financial institution as well. But the big push for that was to get 10,000 into your pocket right now to help cover immediate costs. So that was program 2.
And then the last one is which is referred to commonly is the PPP program. And that one, I've seen on television where people at the federal level have been encouraging, businesses of all shape and form to really own this program because there's a forgiveness side of it, which is really attractive. And when I first heard about it, I just first asked myself, is this for real? Are they really going to give me up to 8 weeks of payroll and even coverage on some of my essential AP and expenses and rent and a relief on some of my interest payments on any mortgages I might have? Really that is like it's never been done before, right? And whenever you do something that's never been done before, when you look at a lot of these programs, especially even the EIDL program, those programs, when you originally got on the SBA's website, before that first Friday, the application process was the SBA's application portion of that side of the site was really about disaster relief. So, as I'm looking through that, you're seeing counties and states that, have been having floods or tornado damages or major national or regional disasters. But now we have the pandemic or the coronavirus. That's this, global pandemic that's, our country is now pretty much anywhere and everywhere there's someone that is in a disaster mode. But this PPP program, this has been something that is, like you said, it's in its second wavelength. They had a first installment and then they had a second installment, which went out on Monday. And if I recall, the SBA Monday afternoon said that over 4,000 lenders have contributed over 100,000 applications in the first day. And they were dispensing like $3 billion an hour. So the second plan, if I understand, if my numbers are right, was $350 billion. So that means if that faucet was turned on at $3 billion an hour, that's like $800,000 in relief going out every single second in a 24-hour period. That's going to exhaust itself obviously pretty soon. And, conversations that we've had, and it could be today, this afternoon, tomorrow, it might stretch into the weekend, we just don't know. But let's talk about the PPP a little bit from your side of it. It's the one program that your local financial institution can work directly with you to help get funds into your checking account. And let's talk a little bit about the background on the Payment Protection Program and just get some general information, education that, no different than you would have with a first-time customer that would be calling you and saying, hey, Jeff, can you tell me a little bit more about this? And is it a good fit for me?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. As you had mentioned, the PPP program is the only one of the 3 that they're asking the financial institutions to help with, whether that's your bank or credit union, anyone who has the SBA lending authority to do that. They use that portal to get that information out. They provide an application for you, and we get that application into the hands of the customer, and the customer has basic information that they're looking for. The entire purpose of the PPP program is to help encourage the retaining of employees. It's all focused on employees and employee expenses and making sure that they're doing everything they can possibly do to help you retain and keep your employees out of the unemployment line. So what they do is they ask you to look back at your 2019 employee expenses. And there's a calculation that they use that we just simply don't have time to break into all the different pieces with it, but there's a calculation that they will use that will help determine how much your business would qualify for. And then from that piece, you would then fill the application out and send that information to your local bank or financial institution. The challenge, of course, that you have with this piece is there isn't a financial institution in the state of Wisconsin, much less in the country right now, that have open lobbies. So the challenge we have is trying to do all of this in a very secure way with the financials to make sure all that information that's going through is being secure and handling the process and all the pieces that need to go with it. Once we have all the information that we need from you, and there is a little bit of a prep piece that we go through with our customers, once they have that information, then we send it to the SBA through the portal. In preparing the information, one of the things that I would highly recommend that has worked really, really well for anyone out there who's still maybe thinking about it is to utilize your accounting or accountant partner. For those who do have it, the accountants are very familiar with the program. They're also very familiar with your 2019 expenses. As an LLC, as a sole proprietor, as whatever, as an independent contractor, whatever that piece is, they have played a very critical role in preparing that information that you would need. So it's not something you need to do. If your accountant's able to send that to you, that's what it usually comes into us. Once we have that information and they open up the window to say, okay, now it's time, as you mentioned earlier, now the SBA opens up the window, that's where the challenge comes in. Because as you mentioned, there's 4,000 banks doing the exact same thing that we're trying to do. And you can imagine the backlog and the log jam, that the entire system gets locked up, and all you do is kind of sit and wait until these portals open up and enable people to come in. So that's really the biggest challenge. What we've done is we have people around the clock. We have people doing it, trying to get in all day long. We have people trying to get in at night at 11 p.m., at 2 p.m., and 5 a.m. on a consistent basis to make sure that we're trying to get all the pieces that we need. So, and SBA realizes that too. SBA just yesterday opened up a window of opportunity for the smaller banks in the country. Everybody with asset size of a certain size could get those applications in, where the big guys have to wait, from 4 to 11 last night. SBA was not accepting the big bank applications, which is just allowing us to get some of these in for our customers as well. So that's worked well. So once you have that information, once we get an approval from the SBA as the financial institution, then the financial institution has 10 days to get a documentation put together for you to sign. And basically what you're signing is a 2-year note on the information on the amount that you qualify for. That 2-year note is going to look and smell and feel just like a 2-year loan, but it has a 6-month deferment plan. So you don't make a payment for the first 6 months that the note is put together. After you receive the dollar amount, then you have an 8-week window. That's when the clock starts. You need to take all the money up front. You can't take some of it. You need to take all the money up front. And your responsibility as the business owner at this point is to make sure that the funds that you are taking as part of PPP are utilized for payroll expense purposes, at least 75%. As long as you then can come back after 8 weeks, provide the documentation that proves that you spent that money on payroll, trying to retain employees, whatever that case may be, then SBA will forgive that entire piece for you. And everything, you never even get to a payment for month 7 on that original 2-year note that you had signed to begin with.
So Jeff, So Jeff, let's break this down in a couple of things. Obviously, there's the people that have not applied for this yet, and there's
Yep.
those that have applied and are waiting for approval, and then there's those that maybe applied in the first round that already have gotten their funding. I got a couple of questions I want to ask you that probably apply to each one of those groups.
Okay.
But for the urgency of the matter is if you're sitting home, you're sitting in your office, you're in your basement, practicing safe social distancing, and you're a business owner right now and you haven't applied for it, is there still an opportunity to apply?
I believe there is, Brandon. I don't believe that they're going through this amount of money as fast as they anticipated they would, for a couple of reasons. One, I think the fact that there's a logjam with all of the pieces coming in. There were a lot of people sitting, so they could only do so many at a particular time. And two, they are putting limits to make sure that everybody has their ability to get customers in. They set aside a certain amount, $30 million for the small banks as well to get their customers in. So they have a little bit more, they have more speed bumps out there that will anticipate, that are kind of starting to slow it down. As of yesterday afternoon, the information that we had heard is they, to this point, have processed 484,000 applications, approvals. That equates to about 52 to 53 billion so far.
So there's about
total dollars.
So there's about 300 billion available based off of that number,
Right?
hypothetically speaking.
So
So
as you and I are sitting here today, they could be flying. I don't want to say. Please
Absolutely.
don't go out and say, this is what it is. And Jeff said, wait, don't worry about it. And all of a sudden you go there and the money's gone. So, all I can say is that's the information that was given to us yesterday on the piece.
Well, and the reason why, and for you guys listening, the reason why we're doing this podcast is I had spoke to a number of individuals. I try to reach out to people every day throughout our space just to see how they're doing, see how we can help them, help communicate what they're going on. And a lot of business owners that I talked to yesterday, actually a handful of them, said to me, he goes like, yeah, I didn't apply. I didn't feel that I was going to get my stuff together, and I didn't qualify, or, it seems too good to be true. And each one of them, I said, no, it doesn't hurt to apply. I mean, the effort to apply isn't that, it's not that extenuous. I mean, for those that are listening, Jeff, what would be the first thing you would tell them to do? I mean, I know there's a short form that the SBA has that helps you calculate the numbers. And then obviously the required documentation is something that most people can just print out of their QuickBooks, payroll summary, grabbing previous copies of their tax returns and filings. What would you tell the person that's listening? What's the first thing they should do after they get done listening to this call today?
I would call your accounting partner. I would call whoever that is, because they have that information, because I guarantee you they have already filled this information out for other customers of theirs. So they understand the program. There isn't one accountant that I've talked to, and there have been many that we've talked to. Many of them are being very proactive, filling them out for the customer, sending them to the customer and say, go talk to your banker. This is the information they need. So that is the number one piece I would tell you to do, is to go to your accountant to get that application filled out and have the information prepared. The second thing that you will need to do then is call your financial institution to see what position they're in. Are they able to accept any more applications? There may be some that just simply turn you away because they just simply can't do anymore, based on the staffing they have, based on the process they have, based on the amount of requests that they already have in. If you run into a situation where that doesn't happen, then I would look for another financial institution who is SBA. That if you go out to the website, they do have a list of all the SBA approved lenders out there in the Marshfield market. So I would reach out to others to see what they can do. We have been able to process, obviously our number one focus at First State is to take care of our customers, in all fairness, first. But we're so passionate about trying to get this thing in for everyone before the money goes out. We are figuring out ways to try to get everyone who doesn't bank with us to try to get that help for them if we can as well. We say it to our customers as well as non-customers. There are no guarantees in this piece. We don't know when they're going to stop that that when they're going to stop that and shut that off. I still remember on the 16th of April when the little green enter button for us putting into the portal turned gray at 9:25 a.m. and the party was over and the money was done. So we don't know when that's going to happen. Of course, it's not our control, but we're doing everything we can to try to make sure we get that done. But it really speeds up the process if your accountant has that information prepared. You don't have to be an accountant to do this.
So you mentioned that gray button. Is that a moment in time that you'll probably remember the rest of your life?
My one of our processors, who is a rock star in this piece, just called and told me the story. I just envisioned it that I will remember that piece. That, oh my goodness, and we had probably 15 customers that we were trying to get in at that time. At that point, I think we processed about 180 loans in the first round, to the tune of about $18 million. So we were very, very proud of that piece. There's other financials out there who might have done 10 times that, and there might have been some who've done half of that. But I believe that everyone is, all the financials, and everyone is trying to help those small business people as much as possible. You think of all of the pieces that everyone's dealing with the stay-at-home pieces, and I'm not going to get any political opinions or any of the pieces about the stay-at-home piece. The one thing that I did learn through this process is what people need to understand is those small businesses, this really is a lifeline. This really is something. If they can't open those doors, it becomes critical for them to get that information. Once the doors do get open, if they don't get some of that information, they just simply aren't going to be around in order to open the door. So we're really, really trying to focus and make that a priority at First State.
You mentioned I'm a numbers guy, so I'm obviously, as we're talking here, I'm writing things down. You said you had a 13 location in 8 lenders, and you mentioned you did 180 loans. So you're telling me that your 8 lenders basically processed about 25 loan applications per business over a 4-day window. Have you guys ever done anything like that ever before?
No. And with bringing the 2 banks together, I mean, that's a piece we've always focused on, but I think it's also critical to mention that those 8 lenders are just on the front end. There's a whole processing team behind that. My 8 lenders they're not up at 11 o'clock at 2 in the morning or 5 in the morning. There's a whole processing team that we have, another dozen people who are stop, drop, and rolling everything they can to get that done, as I'm sure every financial has of some degree of one point or another. So it's amazing what, as far as a financial institution, how much we're learning about how we handle the COVID-19 piece and how we do business, how we offer our full services with the lobbies closed through the drive-up. We just couldn't be more proud of our staff and how they're handling it, how the customers are handling it. It's new for everybody across the board, but it's certainly an additional challenge that we have with this, trying to deliver the services and get this money out, because once that money is determined that they're approved, then we have 10 days to get that information out. So that documentation has to be printed, it has to be logged, it has to be sent to the customer. Customer has to sign it, get it back, and then we have to put it into their account. So all of that within 10 days. So there's just a ton of moving parts. One of the other things I would recommend, that no matter what financial you go to, if you're a business and you're listening to this piece, make sure that the financial that you're working with has you open up a separate checking account, and don't have them put it in the same checking account that you have for your regular business account. For the simple piece, we recommend it simply because there's so many moving parts, so many moving things in and out of a typical business account. One of the forgiveness pieces on there, of course, is the SBA is going to expect that you can track, because it will totally be on the responsibility of the customer to show proof of where that money went. So we're opening up new accounts for every single loan that we're doing. So it's easy to keep track of it. You can't mix it up with somebody who just had an automatic payment taken out to help cover quarterly taxes or something along that line. And those are the pieces with the SBA piece that we're trying to help educate our customers on with the red tape piece. We just don't want to give them any reason to kick something back where all of a sudden now what we thought would be a forgiveness piece now all of a sudden becomes a loan payment, which many people just can't afford. They're not getting into it in order to make a loan payment, or they'd come in the bank and take a loan out. So it's critical for that piece.
Yeah, let's talk about that forgiveness element. We said we were going to touch on three things: those that were, maybe still have implied, those that applied and received some funds, and then those that are in emotion. And we talked about the forgiveness piece. That was probably the second thing that came up in a lot of conversations I had with business owners, was they were just kind of afraid of that whole forgiveness thing. Like right now, if their doors are closed, partially closed, or their revenue has dropped, but they're open because some of their customers aren't open, it affects the whole pond in that sense. And some business owners told me, he's like, the forgiveness thing seems too good to be true. There's really not solid bullet points on what exactly spells it out. The last thing I want to do is kind of keep the lights and doors wide open and the faucet on 100%. And then here at the end of the 8 weeks, I learned that, oh my gosh, I just racked up a whole bunch of debt. It's kind of been a moving target the last few weeks. And my understanding is over the next few weeks, that target is hopefully going to turn into a bullseye, and lenders are going to have more information, more resources to share with their customers as what truly is the forgiveness element. And you mentioned a couple key things. One is at least 75% of the funds have to go towards payroll protection. You have to use all the dollars within an 8-week period, starting the day that you're funded, which you have to be funded within 10 days of you getting accepted. And that 10-day period is really on the financial institution. So one thing that, I, as a business operator, was thinking, okay, well, if I get these funds, can I control the date when the 8 week starts? Do I want to, the last thing I want to do is miss a payroll period because it fell outside the 8-week window. And then essentially have funds left over. And then the last question that people have had is, okay, let's say I go through all this and I still have money in the account. Can I just turn that back over, or do I have to hold on to it? So what have you been telling the customers when you've funded them? You mentioned already that you set them up with a separate checking account, but what other advice are you giving them? And are you really just encouraging them to work with their accountant to manage these dollars in the best way you can?
Yeah, I think that every business owner has so many different things on their plate right now, having to do with so many things. This is one of the pieces that if they can put it in the hands of some partners, in this case, their accountants, to help them with that. Many of those accountants do the payroll pieces for them already. So it's just an easy adjustment for them to work through it. Some may be a little bit more detailed than others, but for the most part, the first piece that we're saying is rely on those accounting partners of yours, and the accounting partners know that and understand it. As far as the bullseye that's coming. Throughout the entire process, as we said, the biggest challenge we have is because this is not a bank program, it's an SBA program. We have to move through the various pieces with caution, making sure that we know there could be moving parts throughout this piece. And the forgiveness piece is what we're expecting will be the direction that will be coming. We are starting to hear some things already. One of the pieces that was very frustrating for us early on in this piece, for many of our customers as well, is there's so much information out there right now. You go on the internet and if you go under PPP, there'll be 16 different versions of the different programs that are out there. Please do not do that. The best thing I can advise you to do is go directly to the SBA website, the SBA.gov, because that will lay everything out there. However, it is not the most customer-friendly language. In some cases, it's a little more detailed, which is then why I would recommend you going to your accountant or your financial, because they will be able to break that down. One of the things that we share with all of our customers, it either comes directly from the SBA or it comes from our financial partner, the WBA, who is our association, the Wisconsin Bankers Association out of Madison. These guys have been working around the clock to work with us. Rose and her team over in Madison have been doing a great job of keeping us informed on what we need to do, because obviously we're the ones that are going to be responsible for helping to facilitate the process. So we have gotten customers to settle down, and they hear rumors, or they get caught up between confusing the EIDL program with the PPP program and kind of mixed in between. So again, with resources, know your resources, trust the resources that you're working with, that namely being your accountant or your financial. As far as what you can do with the with the funds, obviously you cannot control exactly when those funds are going to come to you. The bank has 10 days to do it. And if you're a business owner out there, understand that the bank is processing a whole bunch of business owners just like you. And we're just getting through them as quickly as possible because of the deadline we're under. If that does fall into a gray area where you don't have activity with that payroll, then that could affect the forgiveness piece a little bit for that if you don't utilize that money for that purpose. Which brings me to the last point from your question: what if you have money left over? If you have money left over, you just simply come in and pay it off, pay it down.
Gotcha. So first off, I kind of want to make just a comment in this. Throughout my process of learning about this and covering it here, is you guys are funding these loans. You didn't get a big check from SBA when this all started, did you?
No. Nope.
So these dollars, you said, was it 18 million? That $18 million came out of your vault, right?
Right.
So
correct.
And the reason why I think this is important, and if there's anything that you guys are listening to, if you feel this doesn't affect you, or maybe you're an employee in the community, or you're someone here, there is a value in this moment if you bank with a community institution, because your dollars right now, you might not realize it, but they're impacting thousands of people's paychecks and hundreds of businesses in our community. Because ultimately speaking, if you're sending your money through a banking organization that's outside of our area, these banks are using these dollars, your deposits, to fund these businesses through this program, because you guys probably won't see your money from month, 2, 3, 6 months down the road. And that alone can create its challenges. So if you guys are out there listening, if you're not banking with a community institution, now is the time to really make that investment if you can, even if it's a simple savings or deposit account. Again, giving more power to our local organizations is going to give us more opportunities as a community to really fight the economic pandemic that we're facing. Is that fair to say, Jeff?
Yeah, it is. I think that it's not to take away from any of the big banks who might be listening out there as well. I'm sure they're there, but those local banks, those local, our community banks that we have, we're all in the communities. We're all making the local decision. We all focus on local decisions being made local. Money stays here. This is just a really good example of how we're able to put some of those pieces to good use. It's not something that we're controlling as much as the SBA is, but I think it makes, it's great advice. I would never argue that piece at all. We're always looking to look out what's best for the business. I can tell you they're incredibly passionate right now with trying to get as many pieces as we can in as fast as we can. So, if you are sitting out there, please don't think it's not for you. Don't think you can't do it. There are a few of customers that we talked to who looked at it and just said, it just isn't going to be worth it based on their current situation. But you just can't spread a blanket over that piece because everyone is so unique, and that's each one is different. But I think staying close. The other advice that I would give is, there's our farming communities right now are struggling with big hits in the milk piece. And, I don't think there's a more resilient group of business people out there than our farmers are. I think it's incredible that they're able to do what they do with what they have. And I think we have to do everything we can do to support that piece as well. Speaking on behalf of First State Bank, we do have various deferment relief programs out there for our customers who have those. So if you are a First State customer, please, if you need some help with that, call us and let us know. If you are not, but you are a customer, the best advice I can give you is to make sure that you communicate with your financial. Let them know what you're struggling with. There are various programs, some great programs that everybody has out there that they're working on for the customers right now. So don't feel that as much as this is a tough time right now. We have been through many struggles like this in the past, especially for our farming communities. If it wasn't, if it was feed or hay issues or weather or water, and there always seems to be something out there that the resilient ones just work through, and they get through those. But each is independent, and the best advice is check with your financial, whoever you have your loans with. If you're concerned about that, please call them, work with them, let them know what's going on. They want to help as much as they can. And I would imagine that would go for every financial that's out there in the community state, especially the small community banks. Again, very aggressive in trying to make sure that you get taken care of.
Well, the last thing I want to cover, Jeff, before we wrap it up here is just a little bit of information. We talked on it real lightly in the beginning at some point about some of the changes, some of the things that were made in the second round that really kind of impacts that sole proprietor, that business owner that doesn't have employees, doesn't collect a W-2 and not paying themselves actual wages. They're using they're using their payroll system a little bit differently by being an LLC or a sole proprietor. Have you had a lot of interactions with, basically the, family-owned business that fits that category?
Yeah, we have. Interestingly, that category kind of got ignored the first time around. Well, I shouldn't say they got ignored, but the direction that we got from the SBA in the first round was really focused on more of the employer that has employees in it. It didn't have a lot of direction for us to give to our customers who were those independent contractors, sole proprietors, self-employed people. So we were really happy to see when they finally kicked that out. It was the 14th of April. And then at 9:25 on the 16th of April, the green button went gray. So they really didn't get an opportunity. So we were really excited to see that come back, the program just for those guys alone. There is direction out there for them. It centers around the tax return. And in many cases, what we're finding for those guys is they may not have their tax return completed yet. But again, if you talk to your accountant can at least get some of the information. We don't have to go into the details right now, but they know exactly what the information is that they would be looking for. And even though you don't have that return done, they may be able to at least get that information out that we would need to help you process this piece. And we've had success in doing it for many of them in round 2.
And just to kind of follow up on that a little bit, Jeff, is, we are a nation of free enterprise, right? And, there is people every day that want to have that American feeling of having maybe their own job, being their own boss, doing that. And you bless the entrepreneur to that respect, because it is a different world, it's a different life. But what happened if you're an entrepreneur that either, first of the year you said, I'm going to make a jump and I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to go full steam ahead. And then boom, the 23rd of March, you're learning at 4:00 today, your business's doors are closing and you've only been in business for 3 months. I mean, they say the first 5 years is some of the most critical time in your business, but really the first year is just, it's crazy. Or maybe you started in the fall of last year and you only have, 6 months under your belt. So you didn't have, a lot going into the business to show a strong profit. What are you telling some of those individuals?
There actually is some direction on the PPP program that does give some direction on what information we can use for them. Again, it's very different per situation. Every situation is different. We've had some where we had a business that they applied for their Wisconsin license in January, but they weren't able to obtain the piece until March. Well, that kicked them out. But there are others who opened the doors in January and they were still able to accumulate. Obviously it's not the same amount because you don't have a whole year to go back on it. When you look at 2019 for those guys, especially for those who have been independent contractors or sole proprietors for a while, they do have an annual number. They have a net income number for the year, from the year before. Those are the things that they're looking for. For the new ones, it is a little bit tougher for them. They do have a little bit of grace there that they can work with. It just isn't at the same level as some of the others would be.
And again, best idea there is get a hold of your accountant and kind of look over that information, see what you can do with it. Well, Jeff,
Yep.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. If there's anything I've seen over the last 4 to 6 weeks is I really seen America pull forward. I've seen Americans just be Americans and come together. I mean, we're practicing this social distance and we're, putting space between us, but it's like our hearts are growing closer together than ever. And I've seen countless things, countless activities from teachers, people in public safety, people in the grocery, trucking industries, the banking. You talk about your guys' frontline staff. I mean, people are pouring so much of their energy and time into trying to, just keep the lights on, keep us moving forward, keep us healthy and safe. And, if there's anything that comes out of this, I think we'll be stronger as a unit, because even though we can say that there's some political measures taking place, this is really an American human pandemic, and it's one that's affecting all of us. So, Jeff, I appreciate what your guys' staff is doing. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I hope that there's someone out there that is still listening that we're able to help, shed some light on this a little bit. If we've made an impact by only helping one individual or one company, my time was very well invested. Guys, go ahead, hit the comments, ask questions if you need to. We'll try to forward out any additional information you can. I know Jeff and his team, he said, obviously, we want to help whoever we can. Connect with your financial partners, connect with your accountants. There's still some opportunities potentially available. We're going to work our tail off. It is 11:38 in the morning. I'm calling it. I never do this. It is Thursday morning, 11:38 a.m. My goal is to get this video out by 1 o'clock. Normally we do these videos and I usually get a day to tweak with them, mess with them, and try to figure out what the best content is. But today is about making sure we just deliver. So you guys can see how fast we work. So Jeff, before we go, because I'm on the clock right now, any last comments or thoughts before we call it a day?
Sure. I just want everyone to know, first of all, I appreciate, Brandon, you taking the time to get this information out for everybody on behalf of First State and all the financials out there, credit unions, banks, whatever. We do appreciate you guys and the work you do to help get that information, the right information out to everybody. And for all of those guys listening and trying to figure out, is it worth it or not for me to apply for this piece? We've had, through all the different size businesses, we've had people who've applied for $500,000 and be excited about that piece just as much as we just had one approved for $940 and just be tickled pink. So we got them, all angles. So we're here to help. So please take advantage of it while you can.
Sounds great. Guys, I'm Branden Bodendorfer on Focus. Jeff, thanks for joining us today. We're going to hit the streets and get going with this. If you like what we do, hit the subscribe button, follow our page, and we'll continue to cover the news that matters most to you. I'm Branden Bodendorfer on Focus. You guys have a great day.